Okay, everybody, away we go. Welcome to today's call. This is the one and only the profitable real estate agent plan, and always one of my favorites to do here with you all. Hang on a second. Let me just clean up some of this. So just to get us started here, I am going to get into, let me just make sure I'm sharing this. You should be able to see right now the curriculum for this course, because I do like to, while we let people roll in here, as people aren't always on time like you on timers. I just kind of want to go through where we've been, where we'll be tonight, where we're going through these 12 weeks. But again, as I always say when I do this course, I do this certainly for all the Griffin agents and all the Realty Classroom agents that have team members that come here, but also just the general public to understand that if you're listening to this and you're listening to it live or you listen to the recording, I can't really come up with a much better bone structure for a profitable real estate agent plan. This is exactly what I do for a living for the last 25 years. I also, in addition to that, obviously, if you know me, I'm a coach in the industry for the last 18 or 19 years, but I'm a geek for this stuff to get it right. I'm a student of this business always and forever. And every time that I have a little tweak on the bone structure of the business, I put it in place. I use it myself to make sure things are in the right order, or they are the major things that we need to consider about. And of course, you have your macro issues, meaning your big issues, your global strategies that you're going to use. And then you have your micro, which gets down into some of the tactics and how we do things. This is a course that really teaches you that macro look at the business. And of course, if you hear live, I often indulge in a lot of the specific how I do things. I sit in my office usually when I do this. So if I have to grab something to show you physically what it is that I'm talking about, I can do that. But again, I do this. So this is something that I have worked on as a plan, especially over the last 12 years, with a real acceleration in the last 5 years that has really changed the trajectory of my business on a per deal basis. I think that's really important to mention when you're trying to talk to people about how to become a profitable real estate agent. You don't just swallow, the whole egg at once per se. What you do is you take a little nibble off of it, right? And the idea is we're trying to understand that. We're trying to come up with a profitable plan. And there are certain immutable laws about how to be profitable in the real estate agent business, meaning unbreakable laws. So if you're out there listening to all this advice and you're not really understanding how the business works, then you're just looking for some tactical thing that you're going to dabble in, and you're going to be unintentional in your pursuit to understand it. My job is to show you how I broke it down for myself into these bite-sized pieces that made a lot of sense to me as a business person, as a business mind, because I don't care how many transactions somebody does, right? I don't even really care when they're telling me about the gross. Ultimately, we have to bring money. I do, and I'll get into that, but we have to bring money to the bottom line. So after your splits, after your expenses, you have to bring money to the bottom line. So you have to start at the top line to get to a good bottom line. And so we go through all of the things that are critical in you becoming that agent who knows how to work inside a business that works a particular way. So the unbreakable law of how this business works is that you must understand the business is predicated off of listings. Listings are the digital representation these days. Used to be physical in a book, but it's a digital representation of somebody's property that is placed into the multiple listing service and shared out now with the public, but also with all real estate agents. So that's the way the business works. Without the multiple listing services, it's chaos. Without listings, it's an empty marketplace and more chaos. So it is really an organized marketplace of listings. So when you consider it that way, then you say, well, where do the listings come from? Well, the listings come from a place where a real estate agent connects with someone who owns that listing, comes to agreement that they will be the exclusive agent, and then subsequently puts it into the multiple listing service. No way around that. Immutable, unbreakable statement. Now you say, okay, if we're above that, we're all looking, well, who controls the listings? And that's how we get to this subject of becoming profitable. Because certainly, I heard for years all the quips and the silly lines. You have to list to last and all that. Okay, well, there's some truth in it, but it's all corny stuff that doesn't speak business. Really, just what you want to say to somebody is, if you're going to be in this business, and you expect to build a sustainable, predictable business out of that is profitable, then you need to learn how to acquire listings. And if you want to be the most profitable you can be for the geography within which you're deciding to build this business, then you need to understand median price, mean price. Okay, median's the middle number, mean is the average. And where do you get that data? Right out of the same marketplace that you signed up to be a member of, the multiple listing service. It will tell you have a nice clean start here. It's January 22nd of 25. And so we're at the end of a year. So we have a beautifully nice clean list of data from 2024 where we can get our mean and our median prices. So I know right here, very clearly sitting here, Cape Cod ended 2024 at $1,074,000 and the median price was $765,000. So I know those numbers. So as I go out there in the geography within which I want to do business, and I'll explain Cape Cod lives differently from my Boston book. I have 2 books of business myself. I'm not afraid to jump in the car and drive an hour and 15 minutes just for showing. Did that yesterday, right? To sell $1 million property. So I know money-wise in my head, if I have pursued a profitable deal from the start, because when we go through this course, we already started with week 1 by saying, I can see myself becoming that listing agent, listing properties, if I can help it not below the median price and preferably above the mean price. And that took me a long time to change the type of business that I had locked myself into, which was much less. Now, of course, there has been an elevation in the average price because of COVID. A lot of high-end properties have sold. But ironically, as I sit here over the last 36 months, my own listing average sold, this is SOLD, is $1,071,000. I'm $3,000 plus or minus within the average price. Now, that agitates me to go higher because I don't want to be just average price, but it's well above the median of 765, and it's triple what I used to do probably about 5-6 years ago. So the execution of that plan started with me saying, I'm going to be at least average and above. And so here I am. I'm on track within $3,000. Uncanny how it works, but it was all mindset programming. I talked about that in week 1. Week 2, I set out a gross for my business. We're all business people. You have to have a gross. And I caught somebody today saying, one of my clients saying to me, my coaching client saying, well, we don't account for what we paid out to the brokerages. Absolutely not. You must account for everything, because when you build your financial goal, you're looking at a gross sale. Okay. So if I'm after $1,074,000 and that's my minimum target goal for the average, and I'm after a minimum 2.5%, then I have a real commission event that I'm looking for. And so now my financial goal is very clear. So not only do I believe I can be that person in week 1, number 2, I've written it down and it's clear. And if you're on the inside as a Griffin agent, or you're on the inside as one of my TRC, the Realty Classroom coaching clients, you have access to that GCI goal tracker that every time you close a deal, you put it in and you put in the specifics and you can see whether you're on track or not. In fact, I just changed it for 25 where it's color coded now. If you actually achieve a commission that is below your target that was established in week 2, when we talked about how to do this, if you got below that, the number is in red. It's a red alert warning. Even though it's cash flow and it's good, it's a red alert. You're off your plan already. And if you told yourself you're going to be this profitable real estate agent, you see red, you're trying to run towards green. Between the median commission, meaning take the median price times 2.5% in my model, and I'm looking at all of a sudden yellow. So between median and mean price commission, okay, it's yellow. And anything above the commission that would come from taking the average price times the 2.5%, anything above that is green and wonderful. That means I'm ahead of the plan. So each time I do one of those, and if you hit a bomb, quote unquote, you're way above it, my gosh, does it help your year become more profitable? Because again, it doesn't really take that much more financially. You're not really spending any more money. I'm not spending any more money to do a higher end deal. And again, I'm not talking luxury. A lot of you freak out. I'm just talking median and above to mean, and mean and above to, the top. So you can really, really be profitable. But if you don't have those financial goals set, you're not there. Furthermore, imagining yourself going in and getting these listings, you can't be unprepared. So in week 3, we talk about unique selling propositions, which is marketing 101. A lot of you, if I asked you write down a definition right now of what marketing is, you couldn't really define it, because most of you, if not all of you, are not marketing majors that understood this. And then you have to take this global concept of marketing into the real estate agent business and apply it. Well, one of the fundamentals of marketing is that your marketing is supposed to answer the question before you even do business: why should I do business with you, above and beyond all other options, including doing nothing at all, right? And we talked about that. We talked about the development of these unique selling proposition information products. Okay. These are marketing products. They're called information marketing products, right? That's what they are. So they're piled with information in the right order by an expert who does this every day. And they're physically manifested, because everybody can't wait to do digital, but everybody forgets we get Amazon packages and USPS packages every day in our mail. We can't wait to get them. So we play the game the way that the world works, right? So this combination of this concept of being able to answer it and putting that right information, the right order, and physically manifesting it changes everything. That's week 3. Week 4, though, is just because you say, I want that median listing and above, that doesn't mean that ideal avatar is just defined only by that. Yes, it's part of it, right? The demographics, but then there's the psychographics, which play a major role here. We talked about this heavily in week 4, where why are they doing something? How motivated are they right now? And in the maximal event, how motivated are they inside the next 12 months? Then, of course, you say, well, I don't know where to start. Well, of course you do. Going back to the marketplace, which you pay for and gives you clues, it shows you expired, canceled, and withdrawn listings all the time. It's a phenomenon in this business that exists. Sorry, it's super dusty in here. Construction downstairs. So what happens is now we're looking in plain sight where these people are. And if you've been in this business for a while, I have a lot of my clients filling out their past client section on the GCI goal tracker. And I said, what about that 1.9? You want to ask where other leads are hiding. How about in that neighborhood we already have done business? You sold a 1.9. Go knock every expired and canceled door over the next 52 weeks in that neighborhood as it happens, giving away a package saying, hey, I sold this. And by the way, I saw your property online and noticed it didn't sell. And off we go. We're going to get into language tonight too and scripting. So I'll save a little bit of that. But that's the ideal situation, to identify that person, then go in and have that offer made to them and try to qualify, are they really the avatar, with the psychographic piece, right? Then we took a little side twist last week. And we talk about content marketing, because I have to double down on what's in the package when we really get into that, right? Because people really get kind of fouled up about like, well, like, what do I say? And what do I do? Well, the core piece of fundamental content is a market update. And we do one on a 1-pager, right? That's it. We do a 1-page market update. So you can answer the question with meaningful specifics. How's the market? So not only are you going to put that out there when people are vetting you on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, not only are you going to put it out there once a month with your opinion about it, you're going to put it in your unique selling package as a core piece, right? So we talked about that. Then we get into tonight, okay, with all that ready to go, all of that backup is there, right? What are we actually going to say at that door? And that's where we arrive tonight, okay? So we're going to get into something that is near and dear to my heart, because it really, really affected the way everything happens. And that is, let me just see this. I want to make sure we're seeing this. Bear with me. New tab. Hang on. Share this tab instead. Yes. Okay. You all should be saying, what do you say to influence people? So that's how we arrive at language finally, right? So there's a lot to this to get this right, but it's not that complicated, by the way, but there is a lot to it. So now you're thinking to yourself, all right, I get it. I got to put together one of these unique selling packages. I know exactly what commission I'm after. I mean, gross commission. I know where those listings are. I see the leads hiding in plain sight. I can start with those. because those are the people that actually own what I need. And by the way, your sphere of influence may never own what you want for median above. You might be young and have all these young friends. You're never going to list a median above house until you learn how to go after these listings that are in this geography, right? And have some context and make an offer and see who fits it, right? So, but that comes down to how do you speak to people about this, right? So I'm going to grab one of these too. Just keep these over by me. So it's one thing to say, and just while we're talking about sellers first, of course, we have a buyer package too, but I'll talk about that later on in the course when we get into sellers and buyers and how to deal with them. But if I were to look at the seller package, this is the full seller package for a presentation, which has a lot of the analytical stuff in it when I analyze the solds. But taking that out, like I said, some of the core components of this really are the market update. That's the one piece. Pictures and details of properties that sold around theirs, straight from MLS, just like realtors. And as a bonus, the 7-step plan that we wrote, right? So that's the core and fundamental information. By the way, you're all, if you've been in the business even for a short time, you're all trying to talk about that, all of you. It's just that nobody like me has ever come around and just said, hey, why don't you just organize it in the right order and make it an information product and actually put a cover letter on it that explains how to consume it and give it away. That's your offer. This is incredibly powerful. But you need words to say that. Because, for example, if I got into a little bit of the words that we use in telemarketing, I could tell you, for years, I heard some of the worst telemarketing scripts ever, like people trying to brutalize somebody and bully them into listing with them and saying just ridiculous things and teaching objection handling to an extreme where that was the primary focus, no matter what somebody said, to just overcome an objection, not even thinking about avatar and whether this person had the right psychographics to be a good fit. Just a lot of chaos, a lot of craziness, right? So I went back to the very fundamentals of how do you influence people, because you do have to influence people. Now, you can use the techniques of influence nefariously or benevolently. And that's really going to be the crux of what we teach you here tonight, is how did this all come to be, right? Okay, so let's start that slideshow. So what do you say to influence people? Well, you have to answer this question, right? And so we're going to go through this worksheet that you have to understand some of the basics of psychology and how it relates to making an offer verbally, writing too, copywriting, all this permeates, right? So we have to understand it. But let's start off with prospecting. I've touched on this a little bit tonight, but what is the best definition of prospecting? Because that's really what influencing people is leading to, prospecting. The act of going out there and creating a prospect, which I'll define a little bit. But what you're doing is you're turning a contact who is a lead. Let me explain, because nobody ever explained it to me and it drove me batty for years. What's running through your business is a contact. That's the raw material, right? Your business needs a contact to go through the stages to create this happy past client. I call them happy griffins, right? So what happens is at the front end, we have contact information, and hopefully it has some relevance. Like, for example, I gave you a quick example about expireds, right? So can I get a fully formed contact who is an expired, right? Sure, I can get their names. I can get their mailing address, obviously the listing address. I can use all sorts of formulas and softwares to get their telephone number, probably even their email. So now I have a fully formed contact, full name, full mailing address, full phone numbers, full email addresses, right? So I have everything. Of course, I have to go check that data is really good, but that's what it is. But when it starts off, and you're trying to like say, oh, I'm going to put in my database. Everybody can't wait to talk about a database. They don't even really know what it is. It's actually a contact relationship manager in its best definition, if you ask me. Because what did I just say? It's a contact, and a fully formed one, if you can get it, flowing through the business to become a happy past client who's likely to repeat and refer. That's it. That's what you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to that end result. So as you flow through that, it's that contact floating through. So what's changing for the labels in your database are lead, right? And a lead is defined as, we do not know why they want to sell that property / or buy. And we do not know how motivated they are on a scale of 1 to 10 right now or inside the next 12 months maximum. So let's define a contact lead that way, and then it'll make sense when we talk about this. That turning a lead into a viable prospect requires you to determine why they're moving and how motivated they are on a scale of 1 to 10. So again, going back to this concept of psychographics, it goes back to the syllabus where I talked about avatar or ideal contact, right? As that ideal contact goes from lead to prospect, they reveal that there is a real why they want to move. And they reveal that they're 9 to 10 on this 1 to 10 scale, either right now or in the very near future, loosely defined, if I can warn you, as a maximum of 12 months, because most of you won't even follow up for 2 months, let alone 12. But I'll be liberal in my discussion of that and say it's 12 months. And you don't need that many prospects at or above the median price in your area, especially the mean price and above, to be profitable. You don't. If you'll just sit still and do the modeling, you'll see you don't. You'll see exactly how many you know. And I know a lot of you say, well, it's before splits. So what? Boo-hoo about splits. You have to pay somebody to oversee all this BS that we have to deal with laws and rules and regulations. It's not easy being a broker. So sure, you're going to pay them. But then you're going to take all that knowledge that broker brings you, and you're going to execute this profitable real estate agent plan, and you're going to bring it to the bottom, right? So you need higher price stuff, but you need avatar. You could get a great listing at $1 million because you convinced them to list, even though they didn't really want to. See what I mean? That creates a problem for you. Now you're not profitable because now they price it too high. They don't want to come down on the price. They just say, let's just take it off the market. And all your time is wasted and you get a zero. You get a donut. So to turn a lead into a prospect, you're not fighting with them to convince them that they should have a why and they should be more motivated. That's why I get cringy when I talk about scripting, where people are teaching objections, handling objections. Why? Why? To create a non-avatar waste of time when there are a ton of people out there that actually need genuine help? I know it doesn't seem like there are a ton of people because you've probably never really committed to a 52-week mentality. That's the self-image, like round one in this course. You have to understand this is a business opportunity. You just don't dabble in that. You're not unintentional and hobbyistic about it and expect to make the money you want. This doesn't work like that. Now, I'm not saying anybody works 52 weeks in a year. Let's just say they work 42, right? Take off 10 weeks to do whatever you were doing. If you're consistent across those 42 weeks with a formulaic approach and you don't start and stop, you will make what you wanted to make. I promise you. It's just uncanny how it works, but not if you don't prospect people that have a real why and a motivation and a 9 to 10. So what's the most critical point to understand about a lead? Before they turn a lead into a prospect, you must be aware of their context. And that becomes a very big thing before we get into some of the language of the scripts. And by the way, I will show the scripts today, and I'll take the expired one in particular, and I'll go through that, and I'll break it down because I probably have it labeled the best there, right? But if I were to go in there and tell you what context is, well, what do you mean? Well, I've already given you that in the course where I've said leads are hiding in plain sight. There they are, okay? Expired. Now, do you know the exact context yet? Like they were trading up, trading down, moving out of state, had a baby, need more room? No, you don't know the hyper-specific context, but you know it existed somehow because they took the time to list it and go out there and try to sell it. Now, remember, some of those people changed their mind. Their plans changed, or they were pressured to do it and didn't really want to do it, like I just said. But there's context, at least generally, that there was interest in selling, okay? That's the key. And then when we really get into talking to them, that's when we're going to get a little bit more microeconomic about why they particularly had it listed and expired. But that's the coolest thing about, expireds, cancel, withdrawals. At least they had some kind of context that motivated them to try to sell it. That's good news. And the better news for you is that they failed. So if you come in with a better plan and explaining that to them, you have a pretty good shot of at least being considered, right? But that's really, really important that you have to understand their context. Now, what primary law of influence should you understand when developing your offer? It's critical to understand. Now, this is really a key point, okay? Before I pull it out here, I just have to tell you that when I first started my career, in my heart, this was the way that I thought, okay? And then as I got some coaching, I got sucked into, like a lot of people did, just this transactional mentality. And I lost my way for this core concept to be at the heart of influence. And it's very much at the heart of the unique selling proposition development, right? Really important. And I think it's very soul freeing to not be this taker. And so that law is the law of reciprocity, or also known as the law of gift giving. See, I have a really big reason why that has to be applied to all aspects of my life, and that is to be a person for others. I'll never forget when I was in college, I went to a Jesuit-based college, and where on the wall, anywhere you wanted to go, was be a person for others. And that really resonated with me. I think the highest calling is to be of service to others, right? It's just a Christian philosophy, but it'll also find itself into many religions, right? And just somebody who isn't religious, just to say, I feel it makes me feel good to be good to other people, right? Sort of a golden rule thing without a religious context. But to me, it's really important. So I think it's very hard for a lot of people in this industry to be taught how to take, right? And you might not think you're a taker in this business, but you are. And I can say that because what happens is you get taught scripts that are actually taking. And it's subtle, but it's obvious to me. I can hear that like a dog whistle from miles away when somebody starts to take. In other words, they're not offering any value on a telemarketing phone call. They're door knocking and not offering any value. There's nothing there that really gets that gift giving law of reciprocity kicked in, right? So it's really, really, really important. And by the way, I'll get into the book Influence with Robert Cialdini after I go through the lecture piece of this, and we'll talk about it. But that is something that you should read annually, right? You should go through it. This time of year, this sort of a core of the books that I would go through. They're actually on my Audible. I just put them in, and I'm going through, over the next couple of months in the beginning of the year, just to reform the synapses about the core belief systems that are behind this profitable real estate agent plan concept. They're very simple. But Robert Cialdini's book is just amazingly important and stupid simple. A lot of people have bragged about that book and what it meant to them, including the late, great Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's partner. He's actually a fan of Cialdini in general because I think he references two books along the way from Cialdini, but Influence was one of them. So I knew I was in good company when Charlie Munger referenced it, right? But that law of reciprocity is so liberating for so many real estate agents when we teach it, because there's not one of you that is worried about being too pushy, right? Even pushy people worry about being too pushy. And what I'm saying is, I don't think we have to be pushy at all. Sure, I think there's points in time where you have to ask for the deal. You can't be shy. There's a great, quip that says prospects are silently begging to be led, right? And so I think it does become important for them to, at some point in time, make that call, right? And just say, listen, I think you should do this. Or, you have to be a leader. Actually, it's not just prospects. It's at each stage. When somebody is a lead and you can tell that they're prospectable, encouraging them to accept the information. Once they're there, encouraging them to let you in the house. And once they're comfortable with you, encouraging them to list now, not to wait, right? Encouraging them to lower the price when it's appropriate, encouraging them to take a good offer when it's on the table, right? I can just think of one deal. I was just thinking in my head, and we're just getting signatures tonight. All of those moments needed encouragement, right? So people were silently begging to be led. But why do they allow me to lead them? Because the way that I start off with people is by giving this information, keeping them updated on it, and not just letting them think they like me and that's why they're doing business with me, right? It's by giving information, giving more, being fully transparent, constantly giving all along the process, including forever. into the future, like giving our happy past client gifts. We just don't stop giving. And that all comes from that law of reciprocity. We believe that law of reciprocity is the number one law of influence. We think it's number one. We think it's number one most important anyway, right? Now, the secondary law of influence that you should understand when delivering your offer is this. It's the law of authority, right? And I just said this, that these people are actually silently begging to be led once they begin to gain some trust because they see this professional approach. Believe me, when you deliver a package of information nice and organized to them with a cover letter that explains how to consume it, you have made what's called a dramatic demonstration of professionalism. And that is extremely unique and a unique way to start. But you must continue along the way that way. But when you offer this, and you can hear it on these Friday calls, any of you that are in the Griffin or the TRC and you listen to the recorded calls on Friday where we're listening to, people, telemarketers talking to people, you can hear right away the question marks in the voice. And that's where these folks do not understand what the law of authority means. You have to act, go back to week one. Here we go again with self-image. You have to believe that even if it's your first property that I'm teaching you go out and list, you have to believe in your heart that you are the authority, that you are better studied in this stuff than they will be, even if they have a PhD in engineering. It doesn't matter. They're not the experts in this. We are, and we have to act like that. So that law of authority has to be expressed. Now, it's not a bullying thing at the extreme. It's just a confidence. And stop losing the question about, well, I have this information that, I could give you. It's almost like you're explaining it away when you lose the law of authority. So even though we have this beautiful gift of information to give to somebody, if we offer it with no authority behind it, like, hey, you have context to sell. I see that. And your plans haven't changed and you're still talking about it. You need to take this information because this is really what you need to see. Here's where the market's at right now. Here's what's sold around you straight from MLS, just like I would see as a realtor with all the pictures, details, and the closed price. You lost to these properties. You should see them. And you should take a copy of my 7-step plan and get yourself organized in 7 steps and see if you missed one of these things or you broke down somewhere. And you can have this for free. That's authority, right? And what authority really can be is enthusiasm. Actually, if I take a hard right out of Cialdini's book, that's a left. A hard right out of Cialdini's book, Influence, and I go into Napoleon Hill's book of the Law of Success, and I haven't moved it over yet. Law of Success is this biblically thick book that Napoleon Hill, who was at one time at the turn of the century, he was a reporter who Andrew Carnegie said, listen, come over for an interview. And they'd spent 4 days. And finally, Carnegie decided, he said, listen, I'll finance you, but I want you to go and study all the top people of this day and age to come up with this class of success. And he did. And one of the rules he came away with was enthusiasm, that these people who were successful had enthusiasm. So don't mistake what I'm saying about Cialdini to think it's this authoritarian thing. It's just enthusiasm and confidence in this gift. So I'm just taking 2 laws and I'm stating it very logically, right? Now, how will you know for certain whether a lead is prospectable? Well, using a script will allow you to eliminate your human discretion. So a lot of times, if we wing it, even though we know these 2 laws, if we wing it, then we make an assumption that person is or isn't, somebody who's prospectable. Whereas if we take these laws and we put them into scripted language, right? Some people, cringe when they see a script, but a script is nothing more than a piece of a system and a systematic approach over the long run, okay? That 42, 45-week business you're trying to grow, over the long run, a scripted, systematic approach blows away anything you think you could do on talent alone. Take it from a guy who was probably born to sell, right? I was born to sell something, right? This fulfills my creative ADD need to help people, to whatever, sell. But when I go away from my system, when I don't stay inside the scripted performance, when I am inside a house, I inevitably cause myself problems, including losing real chunks of money that would be profit, right? big chunks, because I use my human discretion. Oh, I liked that guy. I didn't have to say it. No, you are trying to take this prospectable person through this process by saying things in the very specific order based on these laws. And you're going to see it tonight, in these scripts, right? And by the way, I have listened to thousands and thousands of recorded calls since probably about 2004. So we're 20 years into this of me listening to recorded calls as a coach, thousands of hours. So when I take all these good concepts and I tested them over the years, I listened to the consumer to see how they behaved. So it wasn't my opinion. Over time, we just kept trying to refine it. We still do every week. We look for subtleties, but that takes all the human discretion. By the way, the human discretion removal at the operating level is a Michael Gerber concept. Another great book. The Entrepreneurial Myth, written by Michael Gerber, says you are supposed to take away human discretion at the operating level wherever possible. In other words, don't think, just do this thing, right? Now, I know that sounds barbaric, and where's the humanity in all of that? It sounds like some kind of authoritarian, you're just going to do what you're told type of thing. It's actually the greatest gift we could give people, to be that hyper organized so that we can properly make an offer so they can hear it more clearly and simply, so they can be more empowered. Let me sell you on that concept, please, because that's the truth of how this works. And you actually get a much higher dopamine hit when your message is clearly stated to them and it is accepted. The dopamine hit for you is like awesome, right? And in the long run, it's more of a serotonin play where we're just happy about this predictable business. You will not be happy if you wing it, okay? So no human discretion. How will you know for certain whether a lead is prospectable? Okay. Oops, does that say the same thing? Yeah, it does. You'll need to push towards acceptance or decline of your offer by determining whether or not the lead will have context to sell or buy inside the next 12 months. So I talked about this, right? So now we've got the script, and the script is designed to start with the law of reciprocity, using the law of authority, and make a huge give that gets accepted. And then we have this moment where we transition into the next phase, where we do indeed try to take some information. But because we set it up by giving, there's a sense in that human to give back. That's how the law of reciprocity works. And that's why I'm saying you can use it in a benevolent way, because you've given a gift. But the power of gift giving is most likely going to allow you to get a gift in return. When it's telemarketing, or door knocking, or meeting someone for the first time, the gift is some time and attention your way. That's what you're looking for, right? So this time and attention that's coming back to you is really so that you can then take some information by asking them, why? Why are you thinking about making this move? Interesting. No matter what they say, nice, neutral, interesting. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? So when you're actually further empowering them, because most people never slow it down and ask them, have you really thought about why you're doing this? Why do you want to move, right? What's going on there? So you go through that whole drill with them, and that's what shakes out, right? Is why are you doing this? And then how motivated? That's a nice thing for them to go through, because they can get it out. And that's a framework, by the way, super systematic stuff, right? I mean, Simon Sinek's made a whole career about start with why, right? So you start with why you're doing this at all, to make sure, because I tell people, are you sure you want to do this? Because it's not an easy process. You got to pack up all your stuff. You're going to be emotional about all this. I said that. I can see the folks, the Carols. I was at their house last week, and I could tell, they were sort of discombobulated. I said, let's get back connected to the why. You're moving to East Longmeadow because you want to be near your kids and their grandchildren, correct? That's way more important than that job you're worried about. And it's way more important than being here if this isn't where you're going to be, right? Most of the time. So she got connected to that. And I said, but I can't take the motion out of it, but I want you to stay connected to that. That's why we're doing this, right? Because when it's go time, you're going to have to get rid of the stuff downstairs. You're going to have to clean this out. And they already started. So I empowered them before I even do business with them, right? Now, one of the most important things also when you're determining prospectables, right, is you really have to have this concept that you don't have the power in the systems to follow up for very long. In fact, if I were to tell you one of the main reasons most real estate agents are never profitable, including top producers, is because they're always in such a hyper mode to try to scrape the cream. Is there anybody out there? Who's there? We leads. And they're trying to scrape out of this mass pile of chaos the person they happen to catch, right? And unfortunately, when you're at speed, you tend to drift towards, and this is my experience coaching many, many top producers, their average sale is definitely below the average and definitely below the median in a lot of cases of their whole marketplace. And I'm talking major marketplaces. I've coached people in Ottawa, Canada for years, and every one of them that came to me in some capacity over the years, they were selling less than the median by a pretty significant margin. But you would see their businesses and you'd be thinking, oh my gosh, they're doing all this business. I want to be like them. No, you don't. No, you don't. Some of them were making less than people that were working by themselves. So no, you don't. You don't want chaos. So how do you avoid chaos? You slow down and you turn prospectable people into something that you can really follow up with. So you take your time to prospect them. You make a good offer. Then you qualify them. Then you determine that time frame through that qualification is inside of, I prefer you're inside of 6 months, especially at this point when I'm talking to you. I have the capacity to follow up forever. I built systems into Infusionsoft, now known as Keap, for 5 years that would allow me to follow up forever. And at first we had a time frame of 36 months. And I said, well, why am I doing that? I'm trying to hit financial goals inside of 12 months. So I need to build a prospect list that can turn this year in 2025. And I need to see, do I have enough prospects already that if I just turn that list once, and of course, not everybody in a prospect list is going to turn, even if we're really, really good at prospecting them, because plans change, things fall out, right? So you're looking for some sort of a buffer of the amount of money in that prospect list, because you know they're going to graduate, some are going to fall out, and you have to constantly put new ones in. That's very hard to do if your follow-up is long-term and you're not really prepared for long-term. Now, all of you Griffin agents and all of you TRC coaching members, we have a very clear plan for that, and that's supposed to be being executed on a regular basis, right? Okie dokie. So the pro tips here start with read Robert Cialdini's Book of Influence, okay? Let's bring that up right here so you can see it. I'll put it in the chat. But this is a really, really important read, and you should read it. Let's go to Amazon to get it. I'll give you this link, and we'll put this link in the chat. So I'm going to go to the Zoom chat. Actually, I'm recording in 2 places, so let me go to the Zoom chat first. There's that. And then I'm going to go to all of you that might see this on YouTube. Get a better link than that. It's kind of a crazy link. The audiobooks on these things too are helpful too, because when you are doing this in the car, you can hear it differently sometimes too. This is one I recommend you have a physical copy of it and you read it, right? It's really important that you do that. Let me get rid of some of this stuff if I can. Got this long link here. Oh, that didn't work. Bear with me. I'm monkeying around with this too much. Sponsored. Those are all. I just wanted to get the regular one here. Give me too long of a link. Okay, let me give you a better link there in the chat. I don't know what that sponsor link was. Somebody's site there, so you can use this one. It's more direct. And let me put this over here. Okay. All right. So let me show you the scripts, which I promised you. Okay. So bear with me 1 second. I have to open it. And I will show you how these are applied. Okay. So in our coaching program, in case you're just a visitor here tonight, to give it some context, um, we define prospects in this coaching program to remind people how stupid simple it is, that these people have a real reason why. And on a scale of 1 to 10, there'll be a 9 to 10 motivation inside of 12 months. And 3, that they're engaged in a unique selling proposition. So when we go to make this offer, for example, to an expired, we want them to be engaging this, right? We're not looking to try to hard sell. Like I said, there's a very slippery slope when it comes to objection handling. In fact, we do something a little bit different where somebody says, oh, no, I'm all set. Oh, wait a minute, did your plans change? We do more of a pattern interrupt to make sure they're not just blowing us off because they're lumping us in with somebody. Because because somebody's aggressive doesn't mean they're not avatar. So sometimes a little pattern interrupt to make sure. Oh, did your plans change? Right? You're not planning to sell it? And the attitude inside is this authoritarian, voice that says, this dum-dum doesn't even know what you're about to offer because you're going to give them this, this, and this. You sure you don't want that? And a lot of the times what happens is people will say, I have an agent. Oh, are you committed to using that agent again? That's all you have to ask. Not that something. Are you open to second opinions? Most people that are in a relationship are not going to break the relationship from you. And that's a bad avatar too. So those are the things that I think, I'm going to be completely contrarian to what's taught out there. Plus I know this works because we monetize it every day. I'm not pontificating from behind a screen with a microphone and an opinion. This is actually real practical stuff that is profitable. But here you go. You see, you can see in our coaching script, I have put some very specific references to these laws of influence so they can see when I ask them to read a script exactly and the words in exactly that order, I'm not asking them to use their human discretion to cherry pick. I'm saying, read this, right? And then read it this way. Danny, this is Laura from Griffin Realty Group. Right. And so it's not a big deal. It's just an inflection downwards. It's the law of authority. Right. It's not, you have to be athletically ready, especially when you're telemarketing. I'm calling you because it is a trigger word according to Cialdini's book. And he gives a really good story about back in the day when you used to have to line up to use the copier at a big company. You couldn't just email it over and have it print and waited for you. You had to line up. So he talks about this really interesting way how people would cut the line. And the trigger word was because. So we incorporated that. We also incorporated the law of likability, which is in his book. You have to become a likable character. So the words that you choose to use when you're speaking to somebody. I saw your beautiful home online. And then people start to argue and they're like, oh, well, what if it's ugly? Stop thinking and just do this, right? Every real estate opportunity, in my attitude, is beautiful. Okay. Yeah, maybe the house isn't in great condition, but that's a beautiful opportunity for a first-time home buyer to fix it up. That's a beautiful opportunity for new construction because that lot's great. So just buy in to the thing and stop fighting it. Stop you're making it about yourself when you get into those kind of, little mind gremlin games, right? So, and then we also give context. I saw your home online and noticed it didn't sell. So you're telling them their context, right? So I'd like to send you some information to help you sell it the next time. That's the close, right? The law of gift giving and reciprocity, right? May I do that? Actually, going outside of Cialdini's book, I learned this permission marketing concept from Seth Godin, who's a world-class marketing coach, etc. And so we even put that in there by asking. We want their permission. Remember, I said a good prospect engages us, right? Great. May I confirm the mailing address? And then we lock in the mailing address. And then we want a double opt-in, right? Listen, we take the time to customize this information, and it's going to include pictures and details of properties that sold in your price range, straight from MLS, just like realtors. A one-page statistical market update to show you the exact direction of current market pricing. And as a bonus, upsell, a copy of our 7-step plan that we customize for our clients. May I send that? So they've already said yes. They've already confirmed the address, but now we're doubling down because now we're being given the gift of time. See, if we tried to say all of this up front, most people would hang up because it sounds like too much and their lizard brain would just hang up. It's easier to hang up. But we're short and sweet with all the laws of human psychology. So what we can get in a lot of cases is after the may I do that is a yes quickly, right? So you get a yes. It's almost like the doctor coming and hitting your knee with a rubber hammer to test your reflexes, and up goes the knee. That's what you get there. But you want a deeper yes, because this is going to become a relationship, right? That hopefully leads to them becoming your client at or above that median price so you can become profitable, period. So there's a lot at stake here each time that we do this. May I send that? Then we confirm a phone appointment, right? We're trying to lock in that law of reciprocity. I want to call you next week to ensure that it arrives. What's the best day to call? What's the best time to call? And everybody rushes this. You're trying to engage them in a relationship that's based on all these laws that just occurred. And this all can happen, gosh, within, I mean, by the time that's all done and it plays smoothly, try to think of the timer on all those Friday calls, 40, 50 seconds. It's under a minute, by the way, right? Now, again, of course, if somebody pattern interrupts you and cuts you off, then that understood, it doesn't work that, well, but that's how it works. Okay. All right. Voila, that is the course for the night. We got about 9 minutes left here. I spent a lot of time talking about that. So let me go into a little bit of Q&A, and you can ask me anything, okay? Feel free. If you're going to ask me something, remember all your mics are muted. So go ahead and unmute me, and we can go from there. Sure, shoot. Okay. Yeah. 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 Well, you're asking a question about frequency, which is a fair question. But you also said something that was really, really smart, and that was letting them come to you. And that's known as magnetic marketing, if there's a term for it. There's a guy by the name of Dan Kennedy that was my coach's coach, and that was one of his principles, was to make sure that you were magnetically attracting somebody. So in this course where we go through that definition of avatar or ideal, you have to understand what that is first, and you have to be ready to make an offer. So you referenced about dating, right? So imagine that you're meeting a bunch of people and you want to get a date, right? What's your give? It's like anything. What's your give, right? Well, what are you giving? What's the benefit of going on a date with you, right? What's the enjoyment? What's the fun going to be? So just as it would be with the date, I think the more specific you are about the date, the easier it is for that person to react. Now, again, if you understand ideal avatar, let's say you're a ballet guy, like, when you go out, to a nice classy date, you're thinking ballet, right? I was talking to my son about this because he goes to school in New York City, and right downstairs is what's called Lincoln Center, world-class opera, world-class ballet, right? Right there. It's all right there. Orchestra, opera, ballet, right out the door. And I said, so if you want to go on a classy date, you know who the person is that would appreciate that. So he's got this one gal that he went to high school with, and she was an excellent violinist. So I said, okay, so there's somebody that you like. You think she's really sharp. You know she's a musician. You're curious about this. That's a classy date. So I said, why don't you say, hey, listen, I'm trying to learn a little bit more about the orchestra. And I know you played in high school. I saw you play, right? I'd love you to come with me, and we go to this thing, and you can teach me a little bit while we're there. Would you like to do that? So now that's somebody who that would be interesting to. He's still asking, he's still trying to close. He has to make the offer. I'll buy the tickets, right? Would you come with me? So there's a huge benefit that's very clear to that person, in that. Now, if she pushes off a little bit, it's okay. Now you have to make a decision to say, all right, is she nervous? Is she with somebody else? Like, these are all the things that relate, because you said dating. So I'm going to relate it to what I just went through, right? Are they with another agent? Because if they're with another agent, they don't want to be seen with you, even though that sounds freaking great. I'd love to have your package of information. I'd love to go on that date, but I'm with somebody. I can't do it, right? And that's why I say stop trying to break into somebody else's relationship. Don't do it. But if you hear this intrigue or whatever it is, now all of a sudden, if you feel it coming towards you a little bit, say, hey, I'd love to buy these. Is there a good time that you think you could come down from school? You know, she goes to Columbia, so she's not that far. Could you come down one of these nights to see it? What would work for you, right? So now he can begin to close on that date. So it's the same thing with you, is that if you knew that somebody was very interested in selling their property, you could even try to close for the date on the first call. Very hard to do because most people want to go vet you. They want to look you up. They want to check you out, right? So, you know, in this case, you could be on online dating service. They're going to go, hey, you know, I saw you on this and I noticed that you were an enthusiast for the ballet and I'd love to learn more about the ballet. And, you know, if I bought the tickets, would you consider going on a date with me to the ballet? I know you don't know me, so you can go check out my profile, right? You know what I mean? Whatever. I mean, I'm trying to equate the two together where I'm doubling down on what you picked up on. Absolutely, you want them to be interested. Again, prospects pursued run away. If you over pursue somebody, and they're going to run away, but you tend to over pursue if you don't have a good offer that's relevant to them, right? It's got to be something they're interested in that's contextually important to them. You're more likely to get a yes in that scenario to what you're offering. But if you're just trying to take a date, you're trying to take, you know, a listing relationship as a prospect, it's most of the time you're going to have these people run away. By the way, you want no's, right? I mean, you want the no's to the dating. You want the no's to the packages and the prospect. You want the no's because there are far more no's, and you don't need that many people to be successful, right? So I hope that equates dating, since you referenced that, to this. It is like you are trying to attract somebody into starting to date you. And if they want to be in a relationship, that's the equivalent of a client relationship, right? Now you're committing to me. Now we're in it together, right? But yeah. Yeah, but I'm going to give you the dating. I'm going to give you the dating reference anyway, because it's the same thing. When you meet somebody, you're trying to, you know, even if you're in a relationship, there's got to be continuous benefit for that person to be with you, right? And they have to see that. And so you're building it. If you're looking for a date to go meet them, it has to be organically natural, right? It has to be. It should be a logical conclusion. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't ask for it, but you have to read the room. And that's why we have a system that we give you guys, right? The system just says, hey, listen, I'd like to send you this information. It includes pictures and details of properties that sold around yours straight from MLS, just like realtors. It has a one-page statistical market update to show you the exact direction of current market pricing. And as a bonus, I'm going to give you a copy of the 7-step plan that I customize for my clients. May I send that? Now, I emphasize the last piece of it because that's going to lead to the appointment. So now they say yes. Hey, by the way, while I have you, it looks like a beautiful home. Why are you trying to sell it, Ty? Right? And well, you know, I'm downsizing. My husband passed away. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 as we're talking here tonight? How motivated are you to sell it? Now, I'm listening for this to see if I should close for the date, right? And the time. Am I closing? I'm listening though. Because if she doesn't have a really big, you know, reason, you know, she's not a 9 to 10, I want to hear a 10, right? If I hear a 10, maybe a 9, depending how they say it, geez, because you're so highly motivated, what I could do is bring the package to your house. When I'm there, I can do the customization that I promised you that I do, right? I'll tell you what to do and what not to do, especially with conditioning and staging. I'll tell you what to do and what not to do to get top dollar. But I'll also, before I come over, analyze the sold properties that I was going to send you to include a net sheet to show you what I think you'd walk away with after all expenses. May I do that? Right? If they're really ready and they don't really care to vet you, they'd say yes. But I would say 95% of the time, they're like, oh, why don't you just send the package? No problem. Let me send the package. You take a look at it. And like I said, I'm going to call you next Thursday at 4:00 to make sure you got it. Please look out for my call because I do take the time to customize it. I'll talk to you next week. So you read the room. That's all. Make sense? Why so low? Why so low? You ask them. Why so low? Why so low? No, no. Look at why so low. You're trying to guess at what they just have them read their mind aloud, right? You need to know why so low because if it's too low and there's no reason that it's going to change anytime soon, they're not avatar. They're not ideal. It's not for you. You can't convince them to be a 10, right? Doesn't work like it doesn't work like that. It's over. It's over. They're not prospectable. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You cannot force somebody to have a motivation. Can't. Doesn't work like that. They either have it or they don't. Shoot. Mhm. Yeah. I'm going to give you another book in the chat. Okay. Um, you need to understand. Hang on. I got to change this to everybody. Grab this book. This is from week one. Psycho-Cybernetics, Mind Steering System. You should never go out and try to get business without practicing acting. Oh, there you go. All right, so you have the answer in your hands, but I'm guessing you haven't really dug in yet. Yeah, okay. That's your answer. Like I can't give you, but it's mind steering systems. It's acting as if you're already there being successful. But one little pro tip. Stop worrying about your performance. The person in front of you needs the information that you have. When in doubt and you're all filled up with mumbles and jumbles, just say, this information is for you and it will help you. Just simplify. Stop trying to be so well prepared. And everybody's trying to be so well prepared like they're a professional actor or actress. It's nearly impossible. Yeah. Woo woo. Not a boy, Matt. That's it. Dude's got the Blue Angels flying by the Space Needle. I mean, that is that that's I like that. Good, awesome. All right, well, listen, one last call. I'm overtime. You know, I hate to do that on these calls to you all because you got enough going on in the week. Anything real quick I can answer because I don't want to leave somebody completely hanging with something. Anything driving you crazy? Good. All right, listen, appreciate you all being here. Ty, good questions as usual, and we'll see you all next week. Okay. Have a good night. See you later. You're welcome. Bye. Bye, Mercedes.